So this is the beginning of my bird collage. I'm drawing a tree right now. Just sketching in some branches for the bird to sit on and making a very upside down wing. I don't know what I was thinking there. So I'm erasing that and just making a very, very simplistic drawing. In retrospect, I wish I had made the bird much bigger so that I could do more with the collage, but this was just a quick time through. I'm cutting the poor bird's feet off at this point. You're going to want to cut out the tree so that you have access to it. I'm trying to get better lighting here, and iMovie is not liking my light source here. In any case, cutting out the tree and the branches and laying it out there so you can see it. And then I'm cutting out the bird. I'm leaving the bird body as one cutout, and then keeping the wing and the little tail piece separately. Because when I drew it, part of the tail was on the branch, I am sort of making a separate little piece to just be the tail so I can have the whole piece there. So cut out the wing, cut out the bird, cut out the tail, there they all together. I cut the feet off too because that's going to be way too small, so I'm just going to draw that. This by far is the longest part of the process, which is doing the paper paste of the tree. I think in real time this probably took me about a half an hour to do. The important thing to see here is that I'm ripping the pieces instead of using scissors to cut them. Obviously, however you want to do it is totally fine. But doing the ripped paper gives me kind of a rougher look that I liked. All I did was go through a bunch of magazines and ripped out full pages that had in the color palette that I wanted for my tree. So I knew I wanted a variety of different browns, but I also wanted some yellows, and you can see over to the right there I have some greens as well. I discovered as I got about halfway up the trunk that if I continued to use such small pieces, it was going to take me forever to do. So you'll see that I actually start using larger pieces that go all the way across the trunk. And I'm ripping the layer that is visible as I'm stacking them so that that raw edge will be what's visible. It was interesting in Good Housekeeping, which is where I got a lot of this from. There's a lot of food advertisements and like brownies and chocolate this and chocolate that and chocolate all over the place. And it was, it made me hungry, first off. But second, it was really great for the colors that I wanted. I threw in some weird textures that you might never think to see in a tree. There was some zigzag stuff. I have some actual leaf things that are going to get put on there as well. But by the time you see the individual piece, it's only a tiny little stripe, and really anything that is, it becomes unidentifiable. You just see it as color. You don't necessarily see it for what it is. Certainly you could rip these pieces much bigger, and they would be more apparent as to what they are. And a lot of that really just depends on what you want to do. As you can see, I'm virtually gluing this whole thing to the table. So every now and then I just reach underneath and pick it up just to make sure that I'm not going to try to move it when I'm done and then it'll be completely stuck to my tabletop. If you have a piece of wax paper, you can put that down underneath and that will help. I glue on this table all the time, so I'm not particularly worried about it. What I do is work for a while and then I just go and get a rag and run some hot water out of my kitchen sink and then wipe the table down, and that takes the glue right up off of this table. I would not suggest doing this on your favorite dining room table though. That would be bad. This table here has been glued on and wood burned on and hot glued on and all sorts of things, so it's used to the abuse. So almost done here. As you can see, this is about half of the entire amount of time working on this project, and you can choose where you want to put your time and effort. I really wanted this to be a lot of skinny little strips of paper and you know, have a really kind of variegated color palette to work with. And I was pleased with the way it turned out when I was done. In retrospect, yet again, don't make your bird or whatever animal you decide to put in the tree and the tree similarly complicated. I think at the end you'll see my bird doesn't really stand out all that well because the tree is too complex, so the bird really needs to contrast. I think if I had done him in maybe some book pages or something like that and then doodled on top of that, it would have turned out a little bit better. When I'm done with all this, I'm going to scoop it up off the table and just flip it over and leave it to dry. There we go, getting it off the table really gently, but that's the back view. And now I'm going to work on the bird, which compared to the tree, like took absolutely no time at all. I decided I wanted to make the bird body out of that kind of teal blue colored paper that you see there. And what I'm doing is I glued the paper and I glued the bird. Glue sticks better to glue than it does to anything else, so it's great if you can do glue to glue. And this is just the tail that's going to get 3 little pieces of color, and here's the wing. So I did a stripe of purple, this kind of funky chili pepper thing, and then a little bit more purple, and then a little bit more chili pepper. And then I will cut that out when it's dry. So this is the other half of my piece of paper, and I'm using crayons here because I wanted to do this with something that pretty much everybody would have access to, but you can use whatever you want. If you have watercolors, that would look nice. I really wanted oil pastels, but I discovered that I don't actually have them here at my house. I think they must be at my work studio. I'm going to want to cover this whole thing in Mod Podge at the end, so I don't want anything that's going to run. But colored pencils, crayons, whatever, that'll be great. Here I am cutting out the tree. So obviously you turn it over so that you can see your little template from the back. And carefully cut out all of the edges that are hanging over. And be super careful not to cut out your branch accidentally. This just took a little patience. It actually was not that hard to do. It's helpful if you support the branches while you're cutting them. There wasn't any particular direction I needed to cut. I just did what was comfortable to me. And there's my tree, and there's all my tree scraps. I didn't show you cutting out the bird. It's basically the same process as the tree. But now I'm putting glue on my paper and glue on the back of my tree. And then I flop him on there and sort of smush him down with my fingers. And then what I did is I put my bird where I wanted him to be, and I marked the top and bottom of the body with pencil so that I could make sure to put it in the right spot. And didn't have my wing in a weird spot or the tail in a really weird spot. There we go. There he is. I'm going to outline the whole thing with a Sharpie, which just really helps make it stand out. I may go back in later and do some shading, but for right now I'm just going to leave it outlined in Sharpie. You can use any color marker here or anything that you would like. And I'm outlining the bird as well. And gave him a little eye. And now I'm just going to use a variety of different markers. I didn't want to make his legs black. I made them blue, but then they weren't really standing out very well, so I highlighted them in a little bit of teal. And now I'm just kind of doodling on him, giving his wings and his tail a little bit of texture, and his body a little bit of texture. So combining collage with doodling. And you could doodle as much as you want or as little as you want or not at all. It's totally up to you. This is a bird that probably exists nowhere in the world. So last step, there goes my cuckoo clock. Last step here, I'm just coating the whole thing in Mod Podge. I want it to stay put. I may do a little bit more work on it after I get that layer on, but this will really ensure that everything stays where I put it. You'll find that it's helpful if you make sure to go the same direction as the lapping of your paper. And I will show you guys the final product when I see you tomorrow. Bye!